Hey guys, Master Shi here, and today I'll be sharing with you my three Cryo Cannon Generalist builds. So these builds excel in a lot of scenarios, but I'll explain later on which missions you should avoid using them. So right now, let's get on to it. So two of the three builds are really similar in nature in that you'll be using them to quickly freeze mobs or crowds, and in my opinion, that's what the Cannon really excels at. It's crowd control. So these two builds are very similar to each other, but they are still different builds at the end of the day with different overclocks. While the third build is kind of although it's still a generous build, it's more also of a niche build for the cryo cannon. So you'll find out later what I'm talking about. Now for the first two builds, they both excel at freezing. So let's move on first to the first build, which uses a tune cooler balance overclock. Now, this is the best. This is the best overclock in terms of freezing your enemies. Now, for the mods, I used all the mods that are really good for freezing enemies in tier 1 and tier 4. And for tier 2, I picked overclock ejection turbine because the cryo cannon does have really short range, but it's really up to you which mod you want to pick here in tier 2, but I just really prefer range. Now for tier 3, I pick charge speed so that it does refill the pressure chamber faster, and this is to cover for the flaw of the balance overclock, which is the pressure chamber refills at a slower rate. So I used mod 1 here in tier 3 for that. And then also, of course, we have cold radiance, and that's for the freezing power. So that's the first build, and let's move on to the second one. So believe it or not, but this is the build that I really use in terms of a generalist build when it comes to freezing enemies. It's either, yeah, I use this a lot more than the tuned cooler overclock, and that's the improved thermal efficiency clean overclock. So it does have a freezing power of 10 versus the tuned cooler's 11, but I find that this is still really good at freezing enemies. And you rarely also overheat with this clean overclock because you do shoot longer. You can hold down your left click much longer before it does reach overheat. So it's almost the same as the Tune Cooler overclock. I do have all the freeze mods. So tier 1 it's 3, tier 4 it's 2, also cold radiance. I still stick with reach for tier 2 overclock ejection turbine. But in tier 3, I pick rate of fire over charge speed, and that's because this clean overclock, you do shoot longer before needing to pressurize, so you really have no need for refilling the pressure chamber faster, because you rarely will need to repressurize or reach overheat when you hold down left click when you're using this overclock, and that's the reason why I just stuck with rate of fire. It's just the logical decision to do. And then for my third build, let's go on there. So I did mention that it's kind of a niche. Although it's still generalist, it's kind of niche, and that's because we have the crystal nucleation balance overclock. So everyone knows by now that it is like sticky flame for the cryo cannon, but the way I use it is also much the way I use the sludge pump, which is to cover a lot of space with goo. But instead of goo, you're covering space with crystals, or the crystals coming from your cryo cannon. And the thing is that when it comes to controlling space, I do stick with my sludge pump build. I have a sludge pump build for covering a lot of space with the sludge, but I find that this new overclock for the cryo cannon also fills that very same role, that very same purpose from the sludge pump, and it does a better job at it too, because believe it or not, it does freeze. At first, I didn't think that it would freeze enemies that cross the crystals, but it does freeze them. And it's very good at it, by the way. But this is the build I use, so I still have all the freeze mods for tier 1, tier 4, tier 5. But in tier 2, I have larger reserve tank because you do have less ammo for this balance overclock. And then for tier 3, I have improved pump so that we can refill the pressure chamber much faster, so that you don't reach overheat as much frequently. So yeah, that's to avoid overheat, because you won't really be firing at enemies directly with this bounce overclock anyway. You'll be covering terrain with your crystals, with your ice, instead of shooting directly, unless it's a flying enemy. But in case you'll be using the cryo cannon against flying enemies, then I suggest using with either of these builds, the first two that I mentioned, because they're far better when it comes to flying enemies. But this one, the third one, is much better for the ground-based enemies, because you can just fire ice crystals on the ground and just leave it be. So let's just move on to the other. So that covers my primaries, okay? And let's move on to my secondary, which is by now everyone knows it's the wave cooker. So this is how I configure my wave cooker. So for tier 1, it's damage, and the reason I choose damage is because there will be times when you'll be using the wave cooker to snipe enemies from afar, and the wave cooker is really good at firing at enemies from a very, very long range. I think it's one of the guns that have the longest range in the game. So maybe there's a spitter on the ceiling that's really far away, or there's a cave leech that's really far away, and you need to fire it and you can't reach them with a cryo cannon. The only ways to reach them is with your wave cooker. So that's why I picked damage. And for tier 2, you can really you can be more liberal with any of these, but I pick rate of fire so that I can kill things sooner, faster, from a farther distance. And for tier 3, of course, it has to be temperature amplifier so that you can freeze enemies quickly, so that you can spread your freeze status effect among all the enemies that you've just frozen. You can just freeze one or two and firing them with the Call Wave Cooker, and that frozen status effect will just spread like wildfire. Wildfire, guys. I'm sure you know where that reference from, I hope. And for tier 4, I pick Power Supply Overdrive. It's another rate of fire mod, and it's because this one, the wide lens add-on, it's just, well, you have to press reload to activate it, and man, it does use more heat per shot, so I'm not finding really any reason why you have to go with this mod. So it's really naturally going to be this mod. So that's the reason why I picked this one, aside from helping from DPS also. And for tier 5, of course, it has to be the exothermic reactor, so that we can proc temp shock in enemies, and that causes more damage. And it does also trigger that spreads a mist of extreme heat or cold in this case. So for the overclock, we have mega power supply, and it's even more faster rate of fire, but it does suffer from a decreased cooling rate and slower overheat recovery. So when you're using this overclock, always keep an eye on the overheat gauge. So yeah, so that wraps up the secondary. So yeah, I'll also be explaining, just show you what the other mods are. So for the pickaxe, you can just really choose which any of these, but I find this to be more effective damage. For Satchel Charge, I have my Satchel Charge configured in such a way that it's for blowing up terrain. So maybe it's for making tunnels, for making bunkers and whatnot. So this is what I use. Oh, for the drills, this is important because I have my driller's drills configured differently from my other builds. So for this one, it's barb drills so that we can inflict more damage on frozen enemies. So when they're frozen, you do inflict more damage on them when they're frozen. And if you choose this barb drills, it does even more damage. So yeah, what's not to like? And that's also because we'll be using vampire perk for our cryo cannon builds. So yeah, there's really no other reason to pick any of these other mods. So it's all gonna be all damage because we're relying a lot also on melee damage for this build. And for tier 2, it's cooling so that we can cool our drills faster when we're not using it. And then tier 4, it's bloody cold drills because, well, we're gonna be a melee cold vampire driller. So drills cool when we're drilling enemies. What's not to like there? So of course the impact axe for our grenades because we'll be throwing the impact axe every now and then when we freeze the enemies and we want to take some life from them. And here I picked this one so that we can regenerate our shields sooner. It's just a matter of preference. You can pick any of these here. And for tier 2, I really pick. You have to pick healthy because we're a vampire driller. So more health, the better. And tier 4, it's of course breathing room so that we have that sweet temporary invulnerability after being revived. So for the perks, you can really pick any perk, but what's really required here is vampire and iron will because iron will is just really that good. Now when I play solo, I use berserker, but when I play multiplayer, I go with field medic. So just that I can revive my teammates more often and better and quicker. Yeah, that would be it for my builds for the Cryo Cannon. So I did mention that this is a generalist build. It's very versatile. It's very viable in a lot of scenarios, but when you're in solo, I would not recommend it in industrial sabotage, in elimination, and escort duty. But you can use it in any of these other missions. Mining expedition up to deep scan. These builds are really good. So for escort duty, it's not really that good because of the floating rocks. You don't have a lot of means to break the rocks. For elimination, these are the builds I mentioned don't have really high single target damage, so it's not good for elimination either. And same thing for industrial sabotage. I'll be moving on to a video of my game using one of these builds, and I hope you like this build. You have to try it. It's really good, and I'll be demonstrating how to use it. So okay guys, we're doing a Hazard 4 mission. It's a point extraction mission in the Hollow Bow. One of my least favorite biomes in this game. So the reason we're doing Hazard 4 is because Hazard 4 offers a good challenge, but it's also a really completable mission solo. Instead of going Hazard 5, because I'm admittedly not that good in this game, so I'm not able to complete Hazard 5 consistently. So yeah, this is one of the examples where you'll be using the wave cooker when you're not able to reach your enemies with the cryo cannon. And that's why the wave cooker is really one of the best weapons that's partnered up with the cryo cannon. So I made a mistake here. I should have frozen those exploders. Yeah, because when you freeze the exploders are like swarms, wherein when you freeze them, they already die. And what's even better is that they don't even explode when you kill them with your cryo cannon. So I'm trying to look for more open spaces where we can possibly find more aquarks. So yeah, that's the beauty of using the cryo cannon. You can just like spread it everywhere, and then use the coiled wave cooker as a follow-up to kill them. So yeah, when you're using the reeler, always remember that you can use a C4 to quickly get the quarks or eggs in an egg hunt. So here's another quark vein, and we're using our Satchel Charge again. Alright, so it's not yet dislodged. Alright, so when I'm doing this, it kind of reminds me of playing in Payday 2, wherein you keep on throwing bags and then you keep on catching it until you make it to the van. So I'm now showing you to that kind of mechanic of throwing and catching objectives in the game. So when you're playing solo in Acorn Collection, always remember that you can use Bosco to dig for the quarks, and also for Nitra, of course. It's also always important in solo to look for Nitra as much as possible in the early part of the game, because you don't want to be starved of ammo and health later in the game or even in the mid game.
Down it goes. Go, get to work.
So yeah, when you hear those sounds of like things scratching the soil or earth, yeah, that's always not a good sign. And I become more sensitive to it when I'm solo, by the way, without any teammates to rely on. So here I make a mistake. You're not really supposed to melee the swarmers. I think you can pickaxe them, but it's not worth it to use the drills on them. It's even better to just use the cryo cannon because they easily die from the cryo cannon. Yeah, I made a mistake there. I told Bosco to release the quark, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have let him just follow me all the way to the minehead. So guys, what is your least favorite biome in Hoxxes 4? Mine is Hollow Bow and Fungus Bogs. Because in Hollow Bow, there's all these thorns and all these spine things, tentacles that can kill you, damage you, and also I don't really like Fungus Bogs because there's a lot of goo on the ground that can slow you down, really hamper your movement and cause you to die. And they're also they're also two of the darkest biomes in Hoxxes 4. So here I'm telling Bosco to mine the quark, and that's something everyone should do regularly when you're playing solo.
I'm not a balloon.
So I'm trying to get down here.
Swarm, it's a big one, team.
And yeah, we have a swarm. Alright, that's a lot of swarms I'm hearing. They're scratching their way out of the earth. Oh man, I shouldn't have used the pickaxe on that exploder. I should have used the cryo cannon instead. So always remember, when you're using the cryo cannon and the collet wave cooker, it's like a 1-2 punch. Yeah, you jab with the cryo cannon and you launch the straight with the collet wave cooker. Sometimes it's okay to just use the wave cooker, but it's usually done against enemies that are too far away. Or enemies that are too fragile, you know? You don't really need to freeze them. Oh, there's an oppressor here. Oh, there's two oppressors. So, again, this build doesn't really excel in high single target damage, but it will surprisingly do well against oppressors and praetorians, and I'll show you why later. In the meantime, I'm in danger of being swarmed here. Yeah, so it's always important to control them with the cryo cannon. If you feel that they're getting always too close to you, you should always be able to freeze them, so that you don't feel that they're being close behind you. So there you go. This is what I'm talking about. This like one of the most ideal situations that you can do when you're being mobbed. Okay, sometimes it's okay to just use the drills without freezing them. But usually only do it like when there's only 1 or 2 enemies around. So for when you're facing oppressors, it's important to freeze them and then you use the axe spam cancel. So remember to, as a driller, you need to learn how to axe spam cancel. So you freeze them, and when they're frozen, you use the axe spam cancel. Maybe they won't die in the first 2 axe spam cancels, but they'll eventually die. And you have a lot of ammo also to use on them, because we're using the improved thermal efficiency build for this one, by the way. I think I'm gonna post a picture of the Cryo Cannon build in the early part of this game. I'm gonna post it now also, just in case you guys missed it. So yeah, let's keep on moving this 8 quark to the minehead. Alright, we're done. And yeah, I'm not gonna do the secondary objective anymore. We just really need to go. Because the longer we stay here during 8 quark collection, the lesser our chances of surviving the mission. The lesser also our chances of completing the whole mission as a result. So the thing is, I haven't really had 80 Nitra, and that's why I'm really looking for the Nitra. I'm afraid that I might run out of ammo. So yeah, I think I already have enough Nitra to call down a drop pod. I mean, to call down a resupply pod. Alright, sometimes you can just freeze them and then you can use your power pickaxe attack. If you don't want to melee drill them, you can use your power attack, or you can even use your axe throw. Alright, so we're about to finish this mission, but we also need to resupply. So yeah, I just threw that C4 just to just in case I'm getting swarmed from that direction. So there's a what do you call that again? Spreader. Yeah, so I'm using the collect wave cooker on him because he's too far. Oh, septic spreader. Yeah, septic spreader. So you can drill him when he's frozen. So yeah, it's really important to use the wave cooker on enemies that can't be reached immediately by your cryo cannon. So there's 2 more there. And keep an eye on the gauge of your wave cooker. Don't let it reach 100% so that it doesn't overheat. Yeah, you'll notice that when you're holding down the left click on your wave cooker, a gauge will build up. So it's important not to let that gauge be full. So with the Praetorians, again, it's almost just like with the oppressors. You freeze them and then you axe spam cancel them. Praetorians are easier to kill. You can usually kill them with just 1 axe spam cancel, unlike the oppressors, which usually need 2 or 3. If you're lucky, you can do it once. And you just freeze them, then use your wave cooker. So yeah, let's rinse and repeat. Then when there's enemies that are too far away, you can use your wave cooker. If you need HP, you can freeze them, and then you can use your drills, you can use your power pickaxe attack, or you can even use your axe grenades. Axe spam cancel them. Yeah, you usually don't need to axe spam cancel glyphid grunts or the softer enemies. You usually use axe spam cancel on the harder ones like Praetorians and oppressors.
Starting in T-minus 3 minutes.
So we're just gonna drill there. So one caveat I think about this build is you need to conserve your driller ammo when you're doing mining expedition, and that is if you're gonna use your drills to make a beeline for the drop pod. So for now, we finished this. Wow, that thing really wants to kill us. I think I'm hearing a bolt detonator, but we're just escaped. So yeah, nice game. So yeah, that's how you use this build. Again, I hope you find this build useful. It's a really great, not really great, but it's a really reliable and dependable build that's gonna save your skin more times than not. So I hope this really helped you guys, and hope to see you next time.